There's the culprit.
Guten Yardening, everybody. By July of last growing season, these trellises were covered with grapes. In fact, all the varieties of grapes we had planted were doing great. They were in their second and third years, and they were producing. There were vines everywhere. And then came the winter, but more specifically, then came the rabbits. You see, we had plenty of snow, and that plenty of snow stayed on the ground, and the rabbits that were around were hungry. And a hungry rabbit will find its way into just about any situation, and it will eat whatever it can find. And these rabbits, and I promise you, we have plenty of them, they chewed all the way through all the vines right down to the plant. So all of those vines which had spread, and their droppings let us know that they stayed here for quite some time. Yes, we would have had to cut them back. Well, the rabbits cut them back way farther than we would have done. And now, everything that we had is turned into this pile of vines. And it wasn't just the grapes that suffered. Even though we wrapped our fruit trees in these little wraps, well, we had a foot of snow on the ground and it stayed there. So the rabbits got up above that white little wrap. And this is our columnar apple tree, or one of them. It just absolutely demolished that top area. Now, while it's really challenging and I'll say it's very frustrating to lose multiple seasons of growth, well, for one thing, we know that grapes do develop quickly, so I think we'll be okay there. But I also don't want to waste all of this grapevine. My thought is that there's something I can do with it. I remembered as I was taking and cutting all this down that when I was in high school in the FFA, and for those of you outside the United States, that's the Future Farmers of America, when I was in high school, we did a project where we tried to make some wreaths out of grapevines. So my thought is I can take these and create something that we're going to be able to hang around our house that should be enjoyable for years to come. So join me as I turn what the rabbits made into a mess into something a lot more useful. So the first thing I want to do is to create my frame, and so I need a longer piece and I want something that's a little bit thicker. So this is actually one of our thicker vines here, and I'm going to go through and just see if there's anything else on here that I need to cut off. I'm going to make this fairly clean as I go, and then I'm going to go ahead and shape it to see what size we're looking at. That's a pretty nice wreath size. I think it's probably about 18 inches. It's a really nice wreath. So what I need to do then is to tie this first piece together. And I think when I was in high school we used floral wire, but I don't have that. I'm sure string would work just fine, but I have here some steel wire, pretty thin steel wire, and I'm going to use that to go right around the edges. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, when I was in high school, we also would wet these. We would wet the vines a little bit to make them more pliable so they wouldn't break. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to hope for the best. I think it should still turn out all right. So here we go. We've got our frame just like this. And you notice it's not a perfect circle, but the more we wrap around it, the more circle-like it'll become. And also, it doesn't need to be perfect. This is from our garden. We're making our own wreath from our garden. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over and I'm going to grab a couple more of these vines, some of the thinner vines now, so nothing too thick, and I'm going to start wrapping these around. I'll have to clear them off and keep them straight, but that is the next step. So this is the size that I'm talking about. These are in pretty good shape. This is separated into two of them just like that, and you can certainly leave on these little pieces because they add character, I think, to the wreath. I think they'll look nice, but I'll come in and pull anything that would poke me. But we'll gather more like this and we'll create our pile so we can have these ready to go as we're wrapping. All right, so I've created a nice pile of all of these that I've cut back, various sizes, various thicknesses, various lengths. Again, all of that variety is going to make this look extra special. All right, so we've got our main frame right here, and I like to start, just pick any piece here, it doesn't really matter which one. I like to start with the thicker end first, but all I'm doing is I'm creating a wrapping motion, and you may have to bend the end through, but just like this, I'm going to start wrapping around the entirety of the frame. And of course, this is more or less challenging depending on the thickness of the vine, but these are so nice and flexible. It's one of the reasons why they make wreaths out of these in the first place. And it doesn't really matter, again, if you make your way the whole way around or not. That part doesn't matter, because what I like to do is then start my next vine. I'll get a decent, little bit longer one. Start my next vine right where the last one left off. And it doesn't matter if you go in the same direction or not. But here we go. I'm going to start wrapping this next piece. Again, you can start with the thicker end, you can start with the thinner end. It really doesn't matter. You're going to make multiple layers of wrappings around here. And one of my intents is to cover up the wire up here as best I can as I make my way through. All right, we're getting through this one. And then as you add more layers, you'll notice that I'm sort of just tucking this around for now. But as you add more layers, there'll be more area, more space, like this one is sticking up right here. There'll be more space for it to tuck in underneath somewhere, so it won't be sticking out when all is said and done. All right, I'm gonna keep adding layers, and the more layers I add, you're gonna see the better this is going to look. So just go through, and now it's a process. It's probably gonna take me about 10 to 15 minutes to do. So indirectly, it seems as though our rabbits have helped us decorate our house. Now, would I rather have a couple of years of growth out here instead? Yeah, probably. But at the same time, sometimes life gives you lemons and you gotta make grapevine wreaths out of them, right? Well, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you're doing a cutback of your grapes, don't forget you have options for what you want to do with those leftover vines. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.